A quick review on a book I recently just finished, which is Children of Virtue and Vengeance. It's an adult fiction, gives you that Avatar anime vibe, but with black characters. Definitely a win. It is the sequel to this one. I did this review a couple years ago, Children of Blood and Bone. So this sequel is by author Toni Ananemi. She's a Nigerian writer. And I love her fiction sequels. This is the first time I've ever been introduced to the author, so she's done a good job so far. Children in Blood and Bone dropped in 2018, and Virtue and Vengeance Continuance dropped actually in 2019. So I'm pretty late with reading this. We just actually dropped the sequel to that in earlier 2024, where that was the Children of Anguish and Anarchy, and I'm trying to just catch up on the series because I never got to read the second portion of it. So catching up on it, let's give you a quick review. Some of the main characters from the first story still continued on to the second one, which is Zelly is the main character, and our whole journey was just to try to restore magic because her tribe, the Magi, were basically dehumanized by the kingdom's leadership, and they pretty much would try to keep those individuals either confined, they were either murdered, or definitely denounced in the actual civilization. So her whole first journey was just trying to get to reestablish the magic back to her people. And in the second series, it does pick up where the story left off, and it seems like they were successful in that. So not trying to spoil anything for anyone who has not read the first book, but definitely read the first book so you can get the history of the second one. Now, with this, they do have her brother T-San, who is still journeying with her, and also Amari. Now, Amari originally came from the kingdom, so she is actually of royal blood. And originally, her people were just regular individuals. They did not have any powers like the Magi individuals. And was a little bit more intriguing about this second book is that these individuals from some of the kingdom who were regular people, once the magic was restored, they now had inherited some powers themselves. So Amari did come into the second sequel with powers, and I think that added a little bit of a nuance to the story because you kind of had to see how they were trying to navigate learning the powers, and then also you seen how Zelly was trying to navigate even just trying to strategize against the kingdom because now they had individuals who were on their side with powers as well. So that was intriguing to read about. There was a couple of love connections. So T-San and Amari ended up developing a sort of relationship there, and that seemed to have blossomed. You can see that they really liked each other. And Zelly's relationship with Enan. Enan is Amari's brother, and he had taken over as king of the kingdom. So now in the second sequel, they were really estranged. Now in the first one, they were really connected, Zelly and Enan. We've seen them be connected through more of a dream world where their like spirits were basically able to connect with each other without having to be there physically in person next to each other. So that was a little bit of something that was not extended into the second sequel. Actually based off of what occurred at the end of the first book, and I'm not going to spoil it. So this one, their relationship was more estranged, and so you did not see that connection between Enan and Zelly. We'll see how their relationship is teetering on enemy lines with each other. Outside of the love connections, Amari and Zelly's relationship actually had to go through a couple of challenges, and it still was towards the end. I'm not going to spoil anything for that aspect of the book because I feel like it really added some character development with seeing how both of these characters had matured in the journey and how they're strategizing to get the Magi people back established into the community of the kingdom was really different, and they really took on two different sides, but they were still fighting for the same side. One of the things I do love about what the author did with the second series is that she was able to build the connection of getting some history and really learning about the Magi people. The previous series of the book, the first one, we weren't really able to see much of the Magi people. It was just really Zelly trying to like champion for them, right? I was kind of like journeying alone. In this one, we was able to see like how that community interacted with one another, what their hierarchies were, and how they was a community together as a people, and how they decided that they were going to take on that journey with Zelly as her being the head leadership there. And then also, we were able to see how they were strategizing against the new individuals who now found new powers, but were still against the Magi. So that was interesting. One thing I did not like about the book, I would say, is Amari's take. And I think that's just speaks to the great job of the author because, like I said, with the character development there were points at the time where I was just like, Amari, what are you doing? Just be quiet, sit to the side, please. This is not your fight, but you can tag along type of thing. Because she, I felt like, was a little bit getting out of place, but not going to spoil that as well. You should read the book in order to understand. But I did understand Zelly's take on it and some of her reservations. But I really wish she was a little bit more, I would say, aggressive and assertive with where she stood with Amari, because I felt like a lot of times she allowed Amari to overstep boundaries. But that was about it. I think it was a great read. I would give it a 5 out of 5. I think the author did a great job in continuing the story. Usually when there's a big break between sequels, I usually like to go back to the first one to kind of revisit it a little bit and just jog my memory from the story. But I picked up this one pretty easily. I was able to read it, and the story kept rolling like right from where, like it picked up right from where the first one ended. And so I was able to keep reading and rolling with the story. And a lot of points in there was able to jog my memory like, okay, yeah, I remember that. And I thought the author did a good job as continuing the story and also, like I said, building on the characters, seeing their maturity in their journey, and then also building the connectiveness with a history of the fight to begin with. So I am curious to see how this author takes on with the Anguish and Anarchy book, because I know I've heard a lot of reviews about it and some people were saying that it's totally different, but I still am willing to read it just to see how the two contrast with each other or how the story just relates into one another and continues the series. Great read. I would recommend it to anyone with young teens, especially if you have young teens who are into, like I said, that anime, Avatar type of fantasy background. But I think it would be great for any teens because it kind of builds that community aspect of it, but also gives you that action vibe. So definitely a great read. Recommend it to you all, and see me on the next series because I'll definitely be picking up on the Anguish and Anarchy.